Hey everyone, welcome to Easy Economics. How are you all doing? I hope you all are doing good. Today I brought for you all May-June 2025 9708 variant 22. We'll be looking at data response section A question today. Let's see what this paper has brought for us. Now I'll be reading the extract and we'll try to see what is this all about. They have discussed the South African economy, which seems to be in a difficult economic situation. And now they've given us a scenario, they've given us strategies that it expects to implement in order to combat and come out of this difficult economic situation. And they've given us questions to assess the effectiveness of the policies and strategies they have come up with. So now let's read the source material first. The question says, can South Africa escape from its economic difficulties? Now, South Africa has been experiencing serious economic difficulties despite its vast natural resources. The main economic indicators show that the country is in trouble. So now, what are those signs that help us assess or point out that the country is experiencing trouble is that they've given us this bar chart, and this figure is showing us the unemployment rate starting from January 2020 till October 2022. And at the top of the bars, you can see the unemployment rate that was there each year. So now, if you notice, if you look at the trend shows a rising trend till January 2022. And from January 2022 till October 2022, the unemployment rate fell. That's exactly what the source is even saying. That they're saying that despite a fall over the last year, unemployment remains very high. That means although now the rate is relatively lower as it was in the previous year, still it is said to be very high. And the alarming part is that it comprises mostly of people who are of the younger population, and this is where the problem lies. And as a result, what is happening that there is in great disparity of income, and the income inequality is being represented by the Gini coefficient, and the coefficient represents a value of 0.67, which is again very high. And it shows that the gap between the rich and the poor is relatively high. Now, further, they say economic growth is also worst in Africa, and together with high government expenditure, the government has held a fiscal deficit of more than 4% of GDP in recent years. That means it's not that the government is sitting idle in order to combat a low economic growth rate, or let's say to boost economic demand. The government has been spending, yet it is experiencing a budget deficit. That means its spending is more than the revenue that it would have been earning by way of taxes, both direct and indirect, and the amount of this deficit was 4% of the GDP. Now, they say despite a fall in the value of South Africa's currency, now the currency is also being depreciated. So the now economic growth rate is low, unemployment is high, currency is depreciating, fiscal deficit is there. There is also a current account balance of payment deficit of 2.3% of GDP in 2023, and it is expected to deteriorate further to around 2.5% of the GDP in 2024. That means future situation also does not looks optimistic for South Africa. That means that the current account deficit, looking at the current scenario, is expected to further rise. Now they say South Africa is battling with extended power cuts up to 10 hours per day due to the collapse of the state electricity provider. So now the state electricity provider is unable to provide electricity. As a result, the entire South Africa is experiencing power shortages that lead up to 10 hours of without electricity. Now they say what can be done. Now they are asking you. Now they've given you the situation. Now they're saying what should be done. In a March 2023 statement, the IMF recommended that the South African government should adopt the following policies. So now the IMF came up with these set of policies in order for it to improve its scenario. Now, what are these? It says improvement in infrastructure, particularly electricity supplies and transport links, should be achieved by promoting more private sector investment. Then they suggested to increase more competition within South Africa and free trade with neighboring countries. by reducing protection. So now they said remove the protection, remove tariffs, allow free trade by having closer links with African Continental Free Trade Area. That means promote international trade to tackle the very high rates of unemployment and income inequality. It again suggested these range of policies. And what are these? It said establish a minimum wage. Then it asked you to provide employment protection to increase confidence of people back into the labor force. Then it suggested improving levels of education and training, better support for the transition from school to work, and finally, it suggested policies to promote entrepreneurship. So now these are all supply side policies aimed at increasing the productive potential of the economy. Now they say, however, will these policies help South Africa escape from its economic difficulties? That's the big question. Now let's look at the questions. Part A, part one. It's a one mark question. It's asking you to identify the overall change in the unemployment in South Africa between 2020 Jan till October 2022. Now, they are not asking you for any calculation. You look at this figure and you try to determine right from the start till the end what was the trend all about. So, just in a first glance, what can you say? What had happened to the level of unemployment that you're just going to be identifying? So, you could either say that unemployment rose, there was a rise in unemployment, or you could say unemployment level rose between January 2020 till October 2022. That's it. They're not asking you for any calculation. You'll get straight one mark. Part two of this part A. Now they're asking you to compare the trend in unemployment between 2020 January till January 2022 with that between January 2022 and October 2022. So now from January 2020 till January 2022, you're going to be talking about the trend in this first time interval. Then for the second time interval, stretching from January 2020 to till the end. So now the first part of the interval shows what? A rising trend in unemployment, and the later part shows a falling trend. So either you could say that the unemployment rate rose between January 2020 and January 2022, and then later fell between January 2022 and October 2022, or using the exact unemployment rates, you could say that between January 2020 and January 2022, the overall unemployment rate rose from 31% to 35.3%, and it fell between January 2022 and October 2022 from 34.5% till 32.7%. This could yield you full one mark. Part B. Part B is asking you to identify one possible impact on firms and one possible impact on the government of South Africa of this high rate of unemployment. So now we know that the South African has been economy has been experiencing high rate of unemployment. So how could it have impacted the firms and the government? So now either you could choose any one of these consequences which I have identified. One is for the government and one is for the firm. You're just going to talk about it and you'll get straight 2 marks. Now, for firms, you know that people are earning less, they are unemployed. So, this means what? First, if you look at the perspective of demand, it could mean that there is a less or a low demand for the firm's goods and services because people are unemployed. So, they would be spending less on goods and services. As a result, the firm is going to experience low demand for its products. It could also mean that firm has access to cheap labor because when the majority of the people are unemployed, it's easier for firm to recruit labor at a relatively lower rate than it could otherwise. For government, it means a less return by way of taxes because when people are unemployed, a majority of the population is without income. So that means that direct taxes are also going to be low, and plus when the spending is going to be affected, so that means its earning by way of indirect taxes is also going to be less. It would also mean that the government expenditure would be high because it was already experiencing a fiscal deficit, plus it could be spending more on the provision of unemployment benefits, and the majority of the people are unemployed. All right, moving forward, part C. I hope you understood. Now, part C is of 4 marks. They are asking you to consider whether continued fall in the South African rand may lead to a fall in the current account deficit of the BOP. So now, when we know that once any currency is experiencing a depreciation in its rate. So that means what? Exports would get relatively cheaper and imports would get relatively expensive, and the current account deficit should improve. So now what you will do is you will assess and you will look at both sides of the situation that yes, it could reduce the current account deficit, or maybe it could not be that effective in counteracting or reducing the size of the current account deficit, and then you'll brush it off with an evaluation. So you cannot get more than 3 marks if you've not provided an evaluation that looks at both sides and gives an evaluative judgment. So now you could say that yes, a continuous fall in the South African currency could lead to a fall in the current account deficit by way of making its exports relatively cheaper and imports relatively expensive. As a result, there would be export led economic growth. The demand for South African goods and services would increase because they are going to be relatively cheaper and firms would expand their production. So the unemployment rate would fall, employment rate would increase, and the firm would be earning more. Therefore, there would be higher earnings and the current account deficit would fall because exports would increase in size and imports would shrink. However, it could be that maybe because of continuous power shortages and poor infrastructure availability, it could be a barrier, and the firms might not be able to fully utilize this increase in the demand for its exports and meet its exports orders. It's also heavily dependent upon the price elasticity of demand for its products. If the demand for exports are not price elastic, so even though the exports are getting relatively cheaper, the firm would not gain any rise in their revenue, and it could be that maybe there would be no positive effect on the current account situation, right? The current account deficit might not improve. However, if price elasticity of demand is positive, then only there would be an increase in the demand for its exports. Otherwise, if the exports are price inelastic, quantity demanded would not increase and it would not lead to any sizable positive impact on the reduction of current account deficit. So you could finish your answer by saying that current account deficit may fall, but it heavily depends on the price elasticity of demand and the efforts of the government in order to improve infrastructure and provide the ability of electricity to meet the increase in exports, thereby increasing its production. Moving forward, part D. Now, part D is a 6 mark question. It's asking you to assess the extent to which closer membership of Africa with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement would help it achieve economic growth in order to escape from its economic difficulties. Now, notice I have underlined this term escape from its economic difficulties because we need to assess the extent to which this idea of having free trade would be effective. So now, how are the marks going to be allocated? 3 marks for meeting assessment objective 1 and 2 if you are going to be talking about the side that yes, having free trade would be beneficial. Similarly, by discussing the drawbacks, again, 3 marks maximum would be awarded for you if you reasonably answer and meet assessment objective 1 and 2, but then again, full 1 mark is reserved by the examiner for your evaluation. So you can't just get away with providing the advantages and the drawbacks. You need to finish your answer by providing a justified, reasonable conclusion. So now you could say that yes, removal of the trade barriers would be promoting international trade, why it could be leading towards export-led economic growth. The employment level is going to rise. People are going to be part of the labor force, which means a higher level of income. As a result, when production level is going to rise, output is going to increase, the production possibility curve is going to shift outwards. It could be that since now the firms are producing at a higher level, they would be experiencing economies of scale, which means what? That average cost of production might fall, efficiency would increase, and productivity would improve. It could also mean that competition between firms would be increasing. As a result, foreign direct investment could come in, and as a result, firms will be able to produce better quality products at competitive prices. Thereby, the prices would fall, and overall, the standard of living of people is going to improve. However, it could be that maybe the domestic firms could be having a tough time since now there is free trade and they might not be able to survive competition from the foreign firms who might be producing at maybe relatively lower cost of production, and as a result, the local firms would be then experiencing a fall in the demand for the locally manufactured goods. And this means that they might be laying off worker or reducing the size of population. So instead of unemployment falling, unemployment could rise, leading to a fall in economic growth and worsening of the current account deficit. Or it could also mean that even though there is a free trade agreement, yet because of the internal problem of power shortage or availability of poor infrastructure, the export opportunity surge could not be fully reaped or met by the African economy. So you could finally provide the evaluation that this free trade agreement can likely help Africa reduce its unemployment issues and help achieve economic growth provided infrastructure, power outage issues are resolved to reap economic growth by way of large scale production. I hope you understood. Final part E. Again, it's a 6 mark question. It's asking you to assess the extent to which the policies suggested to improve infrastructure and to reduce high rates of unemployment in South Africa are likely to reduce income inequality. So now you are going to look at the extent to which the policies which the IMF suggested are effective for South Africa to combat this situation. Now, first, you tell me what was income inequality. We all know income inequality is a situation in which there exists a large gap or disparity between the higher income groups and the lower income groups. So the gap is widening. That was represented by the Gini coefficient that represented a value of 0.67. So now you could say that the policies suggested by the IMF were all supply side policies, and they aim to increase the productive potential of the economy. That means it included provision of transport links, it included promotion of entrepreneurship, it talked about setting up of minimum wage rate. It talked about providing employment protection, improving the level of education, training, and making school to job transition easier. So now we look at each of these policies individually and we'll assess the extent to which they are effective in order to reduce and shrink the size of income inequality. So again, 3 marks, not max, by covering the advantages of implementing these policies. So you are going to be talking about how these suggestions may reduce the income inequality. Income inequality. So you could say that provision of transport links would be improving the geographical mobility of the workers, because previously if they were reluctant to opt for jobs that were in remote areas, now they would easily opt for those jobs. Plus, if the firms were unable to supply their products in areas where previously they weren't able to, because now transport links are easily accessible, they could increase their production and improve their sales. Further, provision of education and training would reduce the level of structural unemployment, improving the skill set of the people, particularly the younger population. They're going to be a part of the labor force. As a result, the earnings is going to increase, income level is going to rise, productivity is going to enhance, standard of living of people is going to improve. They're going to be availing employment opportunities, and as a result, the income inequality is going to fall. Plus, if the private sector is going to be involved and investment by the private sector is going to increase, that would mean increase in the level of production, that would mean an increase in economic growth, a shift of the PPC towards the right, more provision of goods and services, higher standard of living, more of the population would be a part of the labor force because the firm would be increasing their size of operation, so they would be demanding labor. So when people are going to be better off, they're going to be earning high. So again, there would be a fall in income inequality. Plus, the provision of infrastructure would mean again availability of facilities, opening up of new markets. Firms would be tapping new markets, looking for export opportunities, and as a result, they'll be producing more. Again, higher incomes, higher standard of living. Plus, the implementation of minimum wage would mean that if the labor was reluctant to be a part of the labor force, now instead of being dependent upon the unemployment benefits, they would try to be a part of the labor force, improve their standard of living, and they would be better off. Now, looking at the limitations, again, satisfying both assessment objective 1 and 2, you could say that maybe education and training would be beneficial, but then you cannot determine the extent to which it could be fruitful because the advantages of education and training would be coming in to the later part. It's in the long term that the advantages are reaped, so they would lead to a long term benefit. In the short run, it won't be that effective. Plus, imposition of minimum wage could mean that the firms would be discouraged to employ more of labor. Maybe they would resort to capital intensive methods and they would lay off labor because imposing minimum wage would mean increase in their cost of production. So instead of the situation improving, they could lay off worker, and the gap between the higher income groups and the lower income groups, so the income disparity, instead of improving, it could worsen off. The income inequality would rise then if they lay off workers. Plus, infrastructure projects may benefit only a limited amount of the skilled workers. So it depends upon what type of infrastructure projects the government is investing in. It might not be able to be beneficial for the entire economy. There might be a limited part of the economy that could be benefiting. So again, you're going to brush it off with an evaluative statement for which 1 mark is going to be awarded. Without it, you won't get full 6 marks. You could say how effectively these policies are implemented and how beneficial are they for the lower income groups would help us determine the extent to which these policies would help alleviate income inequality in South Africa. I hope you've understood and enjoyed solving this paper with me. Stay tuned, subscribe. I'll be back with more such questions for you. Happy learning.